And what I mean by writing plan is if you're at the very beginning, then that means let's figure out your outline. Let's build your characters. Let's plan your plot points. Because especially for new writers, even though I tell all writers to do an outline, even myself, if you know where you're writing to, then you don't get off course. Everything that happens within your script needs to be consequential. If it's not helping or hurting your character reach their goal, you don't need it. Right now, is it more important to write a spec or an original pilot when trying to get a staff writing gig? Awesome question. If you're trying to get staffed, write a spec. Because the spec, for those people who don't know what a spec is, a spec script basically means that you're writing a current episode, an episode of a current television show. By current, I mean it's on regular primetime television right now, or if you're writing a soap, I don't know if anybody's writing a soap, it is on daytime TV. But we're not talking about things in syndication. So we're not talking about stuff that used to be on air that was your favorite thing when you were younger. We're talking about stuff that's on television now. And the reason that writing specs are better to get into a writing room is because it shows that not only can you follow characters that aren't yours, right? Not only can you jump into the middle of where they are, that means you've done your research, you know where they've been, therefore you know where they're going. So you can be a part of a staff, right? If you're writing an original pilot, it just shows that you're a good writer. Maybe if your pilot's good. But writing a spec shows that you can write someone else's stuff. And being on a writing staff is like being a journalist, right? They tell you what to write and then you go write it. They give you all the information that you need and you have to know what this person's character is. Like, for example, Grey's Anatomy has been on for what, 11, 12 seasons now? Can you give me something new for Meredith? That's what they want to know. Like, sure, you can go build some character nobody's ever heard of and make them interesting, but what can you do for Meredith? I do make worksheets to help my clients along the way. So I do have outline worksheets, character building worksheets, story structure worksheets, if that's what you're asking. I've made a few diagrams that I've done in some of my in-person workshops to kind of help writers understand the process a little bit. Yes, that's all you can do is start writing. That's it. A lot of times when people say, I have some ideas, I'm like, okay, we'll put them down on paper and then you're a writer. That's it. That's all you have to do to be a writer is write the stuff down. And then once you start writing it down, then we can kind of talk about how to help you get to the place of formatting it correctly, structuring it. A lot of people misunderstand, just like I was saying to classic reinvention, misunderstand that screenwriting is different from novel writing, is different from magazine writing, is different from even film and television have different formats, right? And the way that you structure the story is told differently. So for screenplays, it's all about action. It's all about what we see, right? It's all about action. It's all about what we see. So you're writing visually, right? Yes, and Final Draft does help a lot. Awesome. Good thing you have Final Draft. But when it comes to how you're telling that story, instead of describing something to me for 5 pages like you can do if you were writing a novel, right? You got to be able to give it to me in 1 or 2 lines, and it's got to be visual. If I can't see it or can't hear it, it's not there, right? So you shouldn't have to tell me what's happening. Show me what's happening. And I know that you hear that a lot, right? Show, don't tell. If you haven't heard it a lot, you'll hear me say it a lot. But how can you show it to me versus telling it? And that's kind of one of the areas where new writers need the most help. Okay, what do I do after I've written a pilot for an original ideas? The next step to get it registered with the WGA, you can definitely get it registered. Getting it registered will help to make sure that, the copyright is there. So if you're sending it out to people for them to read it, etc., you can definitely register it. If you know that you're going to revise a lot, then, you might want to wait until you register it so that it can be as close to what you want it to be. But with the WGA, I would say wait until you get to a place where you kind of know that you're getting to the end of your writing process, and then you can register it. If you register every single thing that you write, it can possibly get to an expensive place. But I'll also just kind of touch on the whole trust thing, because I often have people, want me to sign non-disclosures and all that kind of stuff. And I don't mind if that makes you feel more confident. However, this is one of those industries where you just have to trust or get out of the game. Because regardless of what you think, your idea is not that original. Somebody else is writing it. We're all living in the same time on this planet. A lot of us are having some of the same experiences. We're watching the same stuff on the news. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are having that same idea. And if 1 million people are having the idea, 1,000 people decide they're going to write it, 500 people actually do, 50 people get into a room and realize they executed it well or they haven't, and then 2 people actually go into development and one of them gets made, and it doesn't mean they stole your idea. So that thing about trust is just really big. You just have to say, look, I'm writing. Make sure you're sending it to someone you trust. And then you just have to put it out there in the industry. Register it for yourself, mail it to yourself, do whatever it is you need to do for yourself. But at the end of the day, everybody's making the same movie. Remember that year when Justin Timberlake and Ashton Kutcher had the same movie out at the same time? Friends with Benefits and No Strings Attached. Same movie. Does it mean that one of them stole the idea from the other? Probably not. How many of us have thought to ourselves, oh, it'd be really fun to make a movie about a guy and a girl who really want to be together, but get in the way, so they just decide to have sex and that's it. Right? It's not an original thing. So the same is true. Every story is boy meets girl, right? Every story is a love story. Every story is a finding self-confidence story. It's just about execution. So I would definitely say, don't worry yourself too much over, are they going to steal my idea? If you're sending it to a professional, if you're sending it to someone who's in the industry, they probably read 10 other scripts just like yours before you even decided to contact them. So just kind of be open to what's going to happen.
Enjoying the video? Got a story to tell? Let the professional pen take you from idea to story in our online screenwriting course at awriterforyourwriter.com. Ready to write your own movie or TV show? Go to awriterforyourwriter.com. Now, back to the video.
My undergraduate degrees are in English and journalism. My graduate degree is in film, but at Florida State, it's a program between the film school, the theater department, and the English department. So I did film and TV writing, playwriting, and creative writing. It's an awesome program. That's how much I like to write. So it was great for me. So let's talk about script coverage, because there are a lot of companies that offer script coverage. And for those of you who have gotten script coverage from some of these companies before, you'll be able to know that I'm not lying, right? Most of these companies are going to send you back a synopsis, as if you need a synopsis of your own stuff, right? They're going to send you back their conclusions. And within their conclusions, they might say something like, oh, it's like this movie meets this movie, and the characters are great or the characters are bad. And then they're going to give you a recommendation of pass or fail or needs development or something like that. Now, that may be helpful to you if you get a pass, because it may say, great, it's ready to go on to the next thing. If you get a needs development or a fail, then how does that help you develop your story to get it to the next place? So when I do coverage, I do page notes, because I want you to know where the areas of confusion are. I want you to know where you could move this around and put this here and it will provide more tension. I want you to know how you can make your character more three-dimensional. I want to give you formatting notes, which you're never going to get at in other companies because they assume that you've gotten to a place where you know how to format. Well, let's not make that assumption. A lot of writers are self-taught, right? We're teaching ourselves. We're just kind of buying the program, and if the program puts it in a particular place, then we just assume that's where it's supposed to go. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes the formatting is off, and formatting is everything in screenplays because, again, it's about visuals. It's about what I see, and the way I read the page is what I see in my head. I'm playing that movie in my head as I'm reading. Script coverage is always going to be subjective, the same way when you finally get your script to an executive's office, it's going to stop at the intern or the assistant's desk first. And they subjectively will decide whether it goes to the executive or not, right? You don't want typos. You don't want misspelled words. You don't want incorrect grammar because it takes away from the read. And when you're writing your screenplay, you're not writing your screenplay for the screen. You're writing it for the read because a reader is going to read it first. Because by the time it gets to the screen, it's going to be a whole nother movie anyway, because the director is going to come in and make it what they want to make it. The cinematographer, the producer is going to say, well, I need this and we want that. And we need this person to be the lead. So you got to change this. So don't write for the screen, write for the reader. Engage the reader. And guess what? If I got to stumble over your grammatical errors, I'm out. So let me proofread it for you. Okay? Let me proofread it for you. You've been writing. You've been hitting this wall. You know what questions you have, or you're at a point where you don't even know what questions to ask. That's what I'm here for. I am a writer for your writer. So go ahead and just say, you know what? I'm ready to get this script to the next level. I'm just ready. I've been busting my butt and it's just not getting to that place. Then let me read it. Or you just kind of want to talk about it. You want to tell me what those areas are. And you want to see where my brain takes you. Great. Don't think about having somebody else write for you as a negative thing. When you watch movies, as a writer, always stay for the credits. Don't leave before the credits. Get there early enough so you can see the credits during the main title sequence, and then stay at the end for the credits. Notice who gets what credit. Sometimes there's a story by credit. Sometimes there's a screenplay by credit, written by credit. Sometimes there's the word and, sometimes there's the ampersand sign. All of those things mean different things, right? Story by means it was your idea, but maybe you didn't write the script. So that means for those people out there with ideas, there's a place for you. If it says written by, then that means you wrote it. Doesn't necessarily mean it was your story, but it does mean that you wrote it. If you see the word and, that means that they were the next person to do revisions, right? So you might see this person and this person and this person and this person and that means all of those people took a pass at that script. Every single one of those people. And they must have done a major enough rewrite for them to get an and credit. If you see the ampersand sign, that means it's a writing team. That means these two people always write together. They decided at the beginning they were writing together, so they both get the same kind of credit. So don't look at your revisions or even rewrites if you get to that place. If you're at a place where you're like, look, I need a page 1 rewrite, you can talk to me about that too. But don't look at it as if it's like a moment of failure, of I couldn't do it. You just have to know your strengths and weaknesses and then partner with a person like me who can fill in the gaps. That's all it means. All right. If someone has an idea story but doesn't want to write it, how do they go about getting it to a studio? Good question. I always tell people Hollywood is the largest gated community of the world. If you don't have the access code, you can't get in. It's just that simple. So you need an agent. Well, how do you get an agent? Great question. It's a big circle that goes like this. Agents do not accept unsolicited materials. So if you don't know anyone who can get you in front of that agent, then how do you get your stuff in the room? So I would suggest Network, network, network. Like if you're not going to write it, if you were to write something and you were looking for an agent or looking to get into a room, then there are programs you can apply to, and there are film festivals that you can apply to that promise to get you into a room with someone. If you're just the idea person, then you may need to find the writer first. Maybe find a writer who does have an agent. Maybe find a writer who does have someone who can help them get into the room, because it's all about getting into the room, and everyone gets in there differently. The thing about this gated community is everybody got in their own way. There is no, if you do this and do this and do this, there will be success. Everybody's getting in different kind of ways. So if you just have an idea, maybe find someone who can write it. Maybe they've got some ways in, and if not, then get out there and start networking, start meeting producers, start putting yourself in the right position to be in the same room with them socially. So I don't mean like the room as in their office this time. I mean like socially.
Thanks for watching. Need help with your screenplay? Go to awriterforyourwriter.com. That's awriterforyourwriter.com.